Okay, so today's prophetic word is going to be called memorable deeds. Okay, memorable deeds. God has remembered, your memorable deeds. You have done good deeds for the Lord. And it is now time, for you to be rewarded. Okay, so first I'm going to tell you how God gave me this word. So I was reading Esther chapter 6, and God began to download this message to me, So what I'm going to do first is, I will read, I will read Esther chapter 6, and then I'll go over the notes, that God gave me. Okay, so in Esther chapter 6, it says, on that night, the king could not sleep. And he gave orders to bring the book of memorable deeds, the chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written how Mordecai had told about Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs, who guarded the threshold, and who had sought to lay hands on King Osiris. And the king said, what honor or distinction has been bestowed on Mordecai for this? The king's young men who attended him said nothing has been done for him. Okay, so we're going to put a pin right there. So what happens is two of the king's eunuchs, two of the men, who was working for the king, it says they were the ones who guarded the threshold. They had been overheard by Mordecai. They was talking about basically killing the king. They worked for the king, but they was talking about killing the king. So Mordecai overheard it. So what happens is this particular night, the king is losing sleep. He can't sleep, so he calls for he gives order that they bring the book of memorable deeds. So he just having them read before him, deeds that has been done. In the kingdom. And then, they come across this right here where the two eunuchs, who guarded the threshold, sought to lay hands on King Osiris. So in Esther chapter 6, verse 3, and the king said, what honor or distinction has been bestowed on Mordecai for this? So the king knew, the king knew of Mordecai, and what Mordecai has done, but now the king is inquiring, what has been done? What was done for Mordecai because of this? For him telling that these two men was trying to kill me. So in Esther chapter 6, verse 3, and the king said, what honor or distinction has been bestowed on Mordecai for this? The king's young men who attended him said, nothing has been done for him. And the king said, who is in the court? And the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the king's palace to speak to the king about Mordecai, hanged on the gallows that he had prepared for him. Okay, so listen. Now I got to get my notes. Because I got to give y'all a little background on Haman. Okay, listen. So Haman is not a Jew. Mordecai is a Jew. Okay, so listen. This is a little background on Haman. Haman is the enemy of the Jews. And he wants to have all the Jews killed and annihilated. So I already told you that Mordecai was a Jew. But it is important to know that Mordecai refused to bow down to Haman. So Haman is infuriated. He pays $10,000 worth. He pays 10,000 worth of talents to have the Jews killed. So he pays 10,000 talents to have the Jews killed. So at this time in particular, in the kingdom, Haman receives promotion. He receives promotion and he's boasting, and he's ungrateful. So let me read to you what I'm talking about. In Esther chapter 5, verse 9 through 14. Okay. So it says, let me see. Was it 5? Oh, and Haman went out that day joyful and glad of heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he neither rose nor trembled before him, he was filled with wrath against Mordecai. Okay, listen, remember, this is what I was talking about when Mordecai was refusing to bow to Haman. Okay, and Haman went out that day joyful and glad of heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he neither rose nor trembled before him, he was filled with wrath against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman restrained himself and went home, and he sent and brought his friends and his wife Zeresh. And Haman recounted to them the splendor of his riches, the number of his sons, all the promotions with which the king had honored him, and how he had advanced him above the officials and the servants of the king. Then Haman said, even Queen Esther, let no one but me come with the king to the feast she prepared. And tomorrow also I am invited by her and tomorrow also I am invited by her together with the king. Yet all of this is worth nothing to me, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. Then his wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, let a gallows 50 cubits high be made, and in the morning tell the king to have Mordecai hanged upon it. Then go joyfully with the king to the feast. This idea pleased Haman, and he had the gallows made. Okay, so we see here just how much Haman, could not stand Mordecai. Listen, Haman had promotions, he had advancement, he had a lot of splendor. He was advanced above a lot of the officials in the kingdom. But he said none of that, whatever he had, everything he had, it was worth nothing to him. Listen, he had been invited to the feast with the queen and the king. That was still not good enough. All because Haman was frustrated and upset. He was livid that Mordecai would not bow to him. He wanted not only Mordecai gone, but he sought to lay hands on all of the Jews and have them killed and annihilated. He wanted them wiped out. Okay, so Haman and his friends and his wife, they come up with this wicked plan. To have Mordecai hanged on the gallows. Okay. So we are at the point now that I was just reading. So he comes to stand before the king to ask the king for Mordecai's hanging. All right. That's where we at. Okay, look. So we are at we are at the king is going through the book of memorable deeds. And he's trying to figure out what has been done for Mordecai. But while he's trying to figure out and plan something for Mordecai, Haman comes in to talk to the king about having Mordecai hanged on the gallows. Okay, so let's see what's going to happen here. So we are at Esther chapter 6, verse 4, and it says, and the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman had just entered the court. Entered the outer court of the king's palace to speak to the king about having Mordecai hanged on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's young men told him, Haman is there, standing in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said to him, what should be done to the man whom the king delights to honor? And Haman said to himself, whom would the king delight to honor more than me? Okay, listen. So Haman comes in, and he wants to know, the king asks Haman, what should be done to the man whom the king delights to honor? So this was always interesting to me, that the king was asking, the enemy of the Jews, what should be done to the man whom the king delights to honor? And Haman, okay, so listen, if we pay close attention, we can see how Haman was so full of himself, okay. And Haman said to himself, whom would the king delight to honor more than me? Okay, there he go. I say, thinking everything is about him again. I say, see, he wanted everything to be about him. Okay, listen, it wasn't enough that everybody else and all the other officials and all the other people was bowing before Haman. Okay, he wanted Mordecai to bow to him too. And I say, then okay, maybe he would have been satisfied. I say, okay. So it says, and Haman said to the king, for the man whom the king delights to honor. Oh, so listen, okay. So the king asks Haman what should be done. So here we are. Haman is going to say what he thinks should be done. And Haman said to the king, for the man, okay, because listen, Haman thought it was him. I say that the king was going to honor. Okay, so let's see. And Haman said to the king, for the man whom the king delights to honor, let royal robes be brought, which the king has worn, and the horse that the king has ridden, and on whose head a royal crown is set. And let the robes and the horse be handed over to one of the king's most noble officials. Let them dress the man whom the king delights to honor, and let them lead him on the horse through the square of the city, proclaiming before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. Okay. Then the king said to Haman, Harry, take the robes and the horse as you have said, and do so to Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Leave nothing out that you have mentioned. Okay. So Haman took the robes. So Haman took the robes and the horse, and he dressed Mordecai and led him through the city. Okay. And led him through the square of the city, proclaiming before him, thus shall it be done to the man to whom the king delights to honor. Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman hurried to his house mourning and with his head covered. And Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that had happened to him. Then his wise men and his wife Zeresh said to him, if Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is of the Jewish people, you will not overcome him, but will surely fall before him. While they were yet talking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hurried to bring Haman to the feast that Esther had prepared. Okay, so listen. And I say this is one of my favorite. Okay, one of my favorite chapters to read in Esther. Okay, so Haman is coming before the king to basically ask to get permission to hang Mordecai. Instead, instead of the king allowing Haman to hang Mordecai and kill him, he uses Haman, who has this wicked plan, to bless, to bless Mordecai. He has to help and partake in the promotion, the honoring. Listen, the king used Mordecai's very own enemy, to help and aid in his promotion. Not only did he have to watch Mordecai be honored, he had to participate in it. It says in Esther chapter 6 verse 10, then the king said to Haman, Harry, take the robes and the horse as you have said, and do so to Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Leave nothing out that you have mentioned. So Haman took the robes and the horse, and he dressed Mordecai and led him through the square of the city, proclaiming before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. Listen, as if it wasn't bad enough that he had came up with this wicked plan with the same mouth, with the same mind, with the same hands, with the same heart that he intended to do all of this evil. He had to first-handedly honor Mordecai. He was over all of the other officials. We see that he had promotion. Haman was in a high position. I see. Okay. But now he has to serve and honor somebody who he was trying to step on. In Esther chapter 6, verse 13, and Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that happened to him. Listen, so the friends and his wife, they already knew that he had made the gallows, to have Mordecai hang on him, because they came up with this plan together. So after he went to the king, and then after he had to honor Mordecai, and he personally had to walk through the square of the city, and proclaim from his mouth, thus shall it be done, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. Woo! It says that, and Haman told his wife and Zeresh, all his friends, everything that happened. Listen, he went to go tell everybody, what had happened to him. It says, then his wise men and his wife Zeresh said to him, if Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, listen, if he is of the Jewish people, you will not overcome him, but will surely fall before him. Listen, after that, his friends and family was like, I'm not sure if you know, but you have begun to fall before Haman. Before Mordecai. I'm sorry. Okay. So now I am going over my notes. I'm going to go over my notes. So a memorable deed is an act, that is notable for its skill, strength, or cleverness. Another thing, I think I already pointed out that the reason why Mordecai did not bow before Haman was because he was a Jew. And basically that meant that he only bowed before God, and no one else. Okay, so I wanted to read something else about that. Let's see. It was Esther chapter 3. And it's and it's 4. So this is about Mordecai refusing to bow. And when they spoke to him day after day, and he would not listen to them, they told Haman in order to see whether Mordecai's words would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow or pay homage to him, Haman was filled with fury. But he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So they had made known to him the people of Mordecai. Haman sought to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout the whole kingdom of Osiris. So we already talked about that Haman was so mad that Mordecai was not bowing to him. He wanted to kill everybody that was a Jew. All right. So we talked about how Haman was arrogant and he thought so highly of himself. Also, another thing I wanted to point out was Haman, let's see where it says that at. Let me go back to chapter 6. It says, in Esther chapter 6 verse 12, it says, then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman hurried to his house mourning and with his head covered. Listen, we're not going to miss that. Haman was mourning, with his head covered. Mourning means an expression of grief or a time of grieving that follows a loved one's death or other serious loss. Why was Haman mourning? Haman was mourning because he lost to Mordecai. The king honored. Another thing is the king honored Mordecai and not Haman. Haman told we talked about how Haman told everybody what happened to him. He told his wife and his friends. He made sure everybody knew. His friends and his family. So we talked about how his friends and his family told him that you will not overcome, Mordecai, for you have begun to fall. Okay. Okay. So what is the importance of this message? Okay. Why did God download this out of there? I say to me. In this moment, okay, God is now about to start honoring his children. I say for our memorable deeds. I say that has been that we have done for the Lord in the name of the Lord. It is important to know that God has not forgotten us. This is a time of our promotion. Those of us who have been going through this season, we understand this message very well. We understand all of the opposition and challenges that we may have faced. While on this journey, and the story, the part of the story of Haman, it represents that. It represents the opposition, the challenges, the obstacles, everything that's been in your way, trying to stop you, but yet and still, it also confirms how the king, how the king's word and plan, and authority is always final. So get ready. The king has remembered you. Have a blessed day.